Is time travel really possible? Okay, well, I don't know what that was about, but in today's video, I'm going to try to answer the question of, is time travel possible? I mean, is it really possible that we could travel into the future or even travel into the past? Well, in today's video, we're going to try to answer that like I said, but first, I got a couple warm-up questions because that one, pretty hard to answer, so let's get into it. Starting with the first question, still pretty hard, but a little bit easier, I think. Did we invent math, or did we discover math? Math is a very unique thing, and it sort of can't really be explained on its own, so I think I need to use math as an example, or use something as an example for math. I'm gonna use science as an example for math. So I think that math and science are sort of akin because math and science are both observations of things. Science is the observation and the study of the natural world, and math is one of the means that we use to observe and study and explain a lot of things. Science and math are very different, specifically in one way. Science is ever-changing. We find new information that changes what we thought about old scientific things. So science changes all the time, but math never changes, and math never has changed. Since we first found out about math or invented math, that's the whole question, it hasn't changed. Just based on the fact that math hasn't changed, and I don't think math will ever change, leads me to the conclusion that math was discovered and not invented. So that was a fantastic question. Let's get into another fantastic question. This one has a lot simpler of an answer though. How is the world in debt? People say that the world is hundreds of trillions of dollars in debt, but to who? Is the world in debt to some higher form, or is the world in debt to aliens? What is the world in debt to? Who is the world in debt to? The thing is that the world being in debt is kind of a figure of speech. The world itself is not in debt. Who is in debt, or what is in debt, is nations and governments and countries. These people are in debt to each other. For example, if you have a circle of friends and you have Bob, Tim, and Will. Will gives Bob $5 and Bob gives Tim $10 and Tim gives Will $13. It's like everyone is indebted to each other. And the thing is that with this kind of situation, you guys are all in debt to each other, but you kind of can't pay each other off. If you're constantly borrowing from each other, at some point you're going to start borrowing your own money, which is kind of weird, but that's kind of how it has to be. If Will is borrowing from Tim, and Tim is borrowing from Bob, and Bob is borrowing from Will, eventually Will will start borrowing from his own money that he gave to Tim a long time ago, or that he gave to Bob a long time ago. Eventually, you're not going to be able to escape your debt, and that is why people say that the world is in debt, because we're all indebted to each other. All of these governments and these nations and these countries are all indebted to each other, but it can't really be paid off because eventually you're starting to get loans from your own money that you loaned them a long time ago. So the thing is that the world almost can never get out of debt. It's not really possible for the world to ever get out of debt because we're starting to borrow from our own money, and it doesn't really make any sense, but at the same time, it does make sense. I'm kind of getting off topic. Is the world in debt, and to who is the world in debt? Yes, the world is in debt, but the world is not in debt to anyone. People and the governments and nations of the world are indebted to each other. Okay, finally, we're getting on to the final question of the video. Is time travel possible? Now, the thing with this is one of the hardest questions I've ever tried to answer. And that's why this video is probably going to be a little bit shorter than other videos, because I'm trying to come up with a good answer, but the best answers that I can come up with are all very short and very simple because these are all incredibly difficult questions. So, is time travel possible? Well, theoretically, yes. I'm not entirely sure about time traveling into the past, but I do know that it is theoretically possible to time travel into the future. And the way that it's theorized that we can time travel into the future is if we somehow find out a way to be able to move faster than light. The speed of light is so fast that it's almost instant. It's not quite instant, but it almost is. If somehow I was able to travel faster than the speed of light, which is basically in an instant, theoretically I would be able to travel to any point in time because I'm moving faster than time. But of course, this is entirely a theory. It's theorized that it's basically almost impossible to be able to move someone or even something faster than the speed of light. But if it is possible, which it is theoretically possible, it is almost impossible, but it is technically theoretically possible to time travel as long as we can move faster than the speed of light. The thing is it's theoretically possible, but it's also almost impossible. But it's theoretically possible, but almost impossible. So this answer is not very long-winded because it's kind of a very don't know. The best answer that I have is yes, technically we could, but it's so close to almost impossible that you can't really give a definitive answer. But if I had to try to give a definitive answer, I would say yes. Technically, time travel is possible if we were somehow, which is a very big somehow, able to travel faster than the speed of light. But anyway, with that, that's about it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this one was a little bit shorter than normal, but you know, these questions are very difficult and I don't have incredibly good answers for them, but that's what I'm aiming to do here. I'm aiming to try to answer questions as best as I can, as honestly as I possibly can, and I hope that's what I did. I hope that my questions were good enough for all these answers, and I hope that you guys give me some more questions in the comments down below that I can answer as honestly as I possibly can in a future video. But with that, that's about it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.